Welcome to the Lovability Podcast. My name is Jennifer Stiers, and I'm here to talk love, relationships, sex, marriage, and everything in between. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Lovability Show. I am excited. Today, I have a guest on that this is the first time he's been on my show, but I've been on his show for many years, Branden Rathert. Hi, Branden. He's out in Columbia, Missouri. He's with 93.9 The Eagle. It's a Hot Talk, I think. It is the Wake Up Columbia show, and we have a blast. So I've been with Branden a long time. I've been doing his show when he was back in Pensacola with another station. That's where we started with Fox News, and then he's out in Columbia now, and we always have the best conversations. Like, they're wild and crazy, and we always want more time. And so the last time I did a show a couple weeks ago, I said, you're coming on. That's it. You got to come on my show now so we can actually have a real conversation that all of you will appreciate about love, relationships, sex, and everything we talk about on the Lovability Show with somebody who actually is used to talking about these things every single day. So welcome, Branden.
Jen, it is an absolute pleasure to finally be on your show. We have, and it's interesting, and I hope I'm not out of bounds here, you and I, we've never met in person, but I think from the get-go, we're going on 12 years now that you and I have been knowing each other. We clicked, I think. We have that same mindset, that, hey, man, we should talk about this stuff. And we have fun. And I think with what you do with your podcast and what you've done on our show over the years, I think it's important stuff. Sure, it's fun to talk about. And there's nothing wrong with when we talk about relationships, whether we're talking about physical intimacy, whether we're talking about sex. And I just have so much respect that you do that. We can have fun. But this is stuff, it's real stuff. There's nothing wrong with wanting sex and liking sex. But for some reason, it just seems like oftentimes it's not okay to talk about sex. So I admire what you do, and I am honored to be here.
Well, thank you. It's so much fun to have you here. People don't know what they're in for, but, I figured Friday we do like a little early happy hour. I'm drinking my sweet tea, nothing strong, nothing crazy. Oh yeah, Gatorade, there we go. And you know what? We talk about everything. Like, it is fun to be able to talk about things like sexting and things like that are going on. And we talk about love and relationships and all that other stuff too, which, we'll talk about as well today. I love that you're willing to dive in and have the conversation, and welcome everybody. Jeff, Wendy, Hal, it looks like, Elizabeth, great to see you guys tuning in. You guys, by all means too, if you have something you want us to talk about, because we're just, this is an open show today. Like, we're just going to be throwing out topics, different things. If there's something you want us to talk about, throw us a question or a comment, and we'd be happy to roll along. Branden, also, if you go to the Lovability Show on your end on Facebook, you can look at the conversation and the questions. But I'm going to be watching. So. Okay, so this is what started it all. So a couple of weeks ago, I shouldn't say 12 years ago, it started it all. And I agree, Branden, love you to pieces. I hope we do get to meet someday in person. But so 2 weeks ago, we were having a talk about sleeping in separate bedrooms, couples sleeping in separate bedrooms. And that was I don't know, it was an article you found, or it was just a conversation you guys were having over at the station. But we started it out, and I thought, this is we started rolling with it, and it went in a million different directions. And I like it. I want to talk about it because, as you had mentioned it, like, does it work? Why are people doing it? We talked about snoring being a possible option for that. But I was telling you that my brother and his wife do it. Their kids spilled the beans one time when I was over at their house. I noticed the downstairs bedroom was all, the bed was all shuffled. And his son said to me, oh, well, mom and dad sometimes sleep in separate rooms because daddy snores, right? So there's the snoring thing. Kids will tell on you. But having said that, like, they've been married for, I don't know how many years, like a long time. They do great. They're both very independent people. Interestingly enough, they have one of these really interesting marriages where they do a lot of things separately. They have Masters tickets every year to the Masters tournament. Some years she goes with her friends, some years he goes with his friends, but they don't go together. They've got separate trips, that they do. Like sometimes he'll take the kids and go to Europe with one or both of the children. They do a lot of things separately, including sleeping in separate beds. So let's dive in there a little bit. What prompted you to call me about that? I'm curious.
I guess so. Understand, I'm somebody who's been married twice, so I'm glad we're not talking about relationship advice today. I haven't been married for a lot of years. It's been, I think, 15, 16 years since I have been married. So I'm wondering, like, how does this work? And some of it I get. But if you're in a good, loving relationship and you still have a robust sex life, how does that work? And that was kind of what I was wanting to know from you. And I'm still not sure I'm clear on the concept. So I guess it works. You said people and it works. I've not met anybody that sleeps in separate beds. There might be people I know. I just don't know that they sleep in separate beds. So my first question is, so when it comes to sex, it comes to intimacy, do you set an appointment? How does that work? Have you ever had any insight? Are you pulling up your calendar? Well, honey, I know it's not a Friday night, but how about Thursday about 3:30 before the kids get home?
We'll meet in the bedroom.
That's the thing that I'm not understanding. How does that aspect work?
Yeah. So, you know what? It's funny. You're so used to interviewing me and I don't have all the answers, but I will say this, I think it depends on the person because there's some people that are these cuddlers, right? And they want to hold you all night or sleep together or wake up next to you. And then there's those people that go, don't touch me. I'm sweating. I'm hot. I don't want to cuddle. I don't want to snuggle. Or they want, I know my ex used to tear the covers off me. I would literally wake up freezing because I'd have no covers on and they'd all be on him. So I learned to bring a separate setting for myself onto the bed. So when he tore the covers off, I'd have something to put on me. Those are valid reasons to sleep in a separate bed,
Now, I remember one time, it is interesting, you talk about the kids, say, hey, Aunt Jen, they sleep in separate beds because Daddy snores. In my first marriage with my son's mom, I noticed sometimes, and I've always had a weird schedule. I get up really early. And so sometimes I would get up in the morning and I would realize, oh, she's gone. She slept in the kid's bedroom. She's on the couch. And after this had been going on for a while, we were at a party one night and somebody had kind of mentioned, well, he snores. So sometimes I get up, late at night and I'll get out. So I kind of said, and I turned to my wife and I said, oh yeah. I said, sometimes Andrea sleeps in a separate bed because I snore. And Jen, she looks at me, she says, I sleep in a separate bed because you're an ignorant prick. And I just don't want to be with you.
Okay, that too.
Yeah. So here I'm thinking, oh, I snore. And she just didn't want to spend that much time with me anymore. So I've seen it from that end.
Hence the divorce, but yes, go ahead. Yeah.
It wasn't planned. It wasn't like we said every night we're sleeping in separate beds. So that's why I was just kind of baffled. People who do this, for intimacy, are you setting aside time? Do you schedule time? And then also, do you say my room? Or your room, or heck, it doesn't even have to be. I'll meet you in the laundry room in about 10 minutes. Playing war games right now on the computer, so I think Good. Do you meet somewhere? Whose room? These are questions, and I don't know, and I know you don't have all the answers, but I always appreciate any of your anecdotal research evidence that you've done.
Oh, you know what? I'm just going to give you my opinion. Like, I
Okay.
just feel like if you had a central room where maybe you guys had a television, if you like to watch shows, or you had a place that was, your bedroom, your marital bedroom or your relational bedroom, and you do whatever you
Relational
do,
bedroom?
your relational bedroom. I
You
said it.
mean
I made up a term. Anyway.
romper room? The romper room. You're saying we need to
Exactly.
have a romper?
That's fine. The romper room works. Only old people know what that is, what romper room actually is. But having said that, why can't you, if you finish business and you've both, kind of, you're done, why can't you just go into another, what's stopping you from going and sleeping somewhere else if the person that you sleep next to, something about them hinders you? You know what I mean? I mean, most people, I think, can do well. But, I was just watching, like, there's somebody watching right now, Erica. I know she's got a huge dog. So what happens, so for example, if somebody's dog, like you start dating somebody and they've got a dog or two, like these big giant dogs that are used to sleeping with them, I mean, somebody might not want to sleep with giant dogs, or I have a cat that likes to sleep with me, What if somebody doesn't want to sleep with my cat, right? So that might be a reason for sleeping in a separate room, My cat wakes me up at 5 a.m. That used to completely tick off my partner, that he'd start scratching at things and jumping on us at like 5 a.m. because he was ready to eat. That's a reason to sleep in a separate room. It doesn't mean you don't love each other, but there's no reason why you have to schedule intimacy. Just do your thing. And then when you're ready to go to sleep, go to your room. Go to your room.
Here's
Right?
your thing. Well, and there's a lot there because, and you're right. Why is it? And I don't think there's anything wrong with it because, and this comes from somebody, I get up very early, and I've been doing it for a long time. Now, right now, I am not in a relationship, but I think that's the key, and that's why I think a lot of people admire what you do on your podcast, Jen, is because I think if you talk about it and let each other know ahead of time. That say, hey, you have early hours, you snore, or my goodness, your dog's a Great Dane. It ain't if it's in the bed, I'm not in the bed with you with this Great Dane. But that's the thing is talking about it. So let's say we are at a spot in a relationship. I'm trying to think this out here. I'm in a relationship with somebody, and we're going to have this conversation. You do it. You're all on board. Then how is it? And maybe that's the next step because, sleeping in separate beds, it sounds kind of foreign because people don't talk about it enough that like, hey, this is an okay option. But let's say you have talked about that. You guys are both cool. Then, and here's the conversation that I'm wondering how this goes. You say, okay, do we schedule time? Because with sex and intimacy, oftentimes it's not like, hey, okay, I'll meet you at lunchtime. To schedule something just seems weird. It takes away, I think, some of the friskiness, some of the
Spontaneity, yeah.
moment stuff.
Yuck. I agree with you. I feel like, and I guess it's how it's done. I can see people in your position when you wake up at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work, that would interfere with somebody else's sleep and how they would really, that's a call for a separate bedroom. Sorry. But having said that, do you have to schedule it? It really just depends. I think to myself, if somebody has a schedule, two of my friends, they watch the podcast from time to time. I know they wouldn't mind me calling them out. He goes to bed late. No, he goes to bed early. She goes to bed late. And they don't want to keep each other up. So a lot of times during the week with work, he'll go to bed early and she'll go in another bedroom and stay up late. Hopefully before then, they're laying together, cuddling together, hanging out until it's his bedtime. And then they, so there is a natural component, I think, to it, right? Because you're not working against.
That's the thing, though. But I think that's that drawing, that building that bridge from, okay, so we've had that talk. we're cool sleeping in separate beds, but now how are we, going to do this? What nights do we schedule? I think that would be kind of the difficult
You're so funny. You're so
conversation.
worried about that. You know what? Hopefully it's just happening. I mean, I can't imagine having to schedule sex ever. Hopefully you are attracted enough to your person where it doesn't have to always be in the bedroom. I mean, you could be in the living room, you could be in the kitchen, you know what I mean? Like it shouldn't matter. It should still be happening because you're attracted to each other. If you have to schedule sex, something's already wrong. Come talk to me. Really. I mean, honestly, I think that's the answer to that. It's interesting. I've got a lot of partner over pet, Jasmine says. And Jasmine has two big dogs. So she says partner over pet. Aya says, I'm a cuddler, but if you're sweating all over me, I'm out. I love it. Yeah, no sweating. So love y'all's feedback, by the way. Partner over pet. I dig that. So having said, so here we are talking about the whole thing with scheduling sex. I think that if it's not happening, Branden, anyway, if you aren't finding time for it, if you don't want your person enough, if you've got to schedule it or make time for it or figure it out, like when are we going to do it? And it's just not happening naturally. There's already something going on in the relationship from a red flag standpoint. I get it when you have kids. I get it when you have young children and you're putting kids to bed and there's different schedules. I can see where you would need to schedule, time to say, you know what, let's have the kids to bed by 10 so that we can spend an hour together, laughing, talking, reading, praying, having fun, whatever we're going to do, that you have that time together before you go to sleep. And I think a schedule like that is important. And I think that is something we can bring up relationally here that could actually help people, is if you are in that place where you have young kids or you have something that affects your schedule, that you may need to schedule a time. Here's where it is. You're not scheduling sex because that's so impersonal, but you're saying, you know what, like Branden, with your job, saying, we know we're going to sleep in separate beds tonight. It's during the week, but let's every night by 9:00, you probably go to bed early, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like 8:00. So you're saying, okay, so I hear what you're saying. You're saying, okay, so we're scheduling time together. We're not necessarily saying, hey, we're scheduling romper room time together.
Exactly.
Just, hey, this
Whatever
time
happens.
at night we get together, we might do whatever. And if the sex happens, it happens if that's where we are that night.
Yeah. So if you go to bed at 8, I think I eat dinner by 8. Anyway, if you go to bed by 8, then you would need to say, you know what, from 7 to 8 is our time. So phones are gone. We just hang out. It's our intimate time together and we can talk, we can do whatever, but let's just spend that time together, whether it's in the living room, it's in the bedroom, wherever it is, that you just schedule that time together. And I do think this is very critical, again, for people with separate schedules, for people with children, or anything that affects that whole, sleeping sex cycle, because ultimately what happens is if you let that part of your relationship go, and you lose the intimacy and the sex, the marriage and the relationship is not long to follow after. So you have to nurture that part. You do.
I do. Physical intimacy. And again, people like you over the years, I think we bring this more out into the open and we talk about it. And hey, it's okay, that we talk about these things as it relates to sex in a relationship, talking about it and being open. And again, it goes back to, and guys are probably going to hate this, it's communication, that you got to say, this is what we're doing, and it's okay to want sex. I don't know, maybe it's a generational thing. The older generations, you don't talk about it, and sex was just for the purpose of procreation, and it's not that way. It's pleasurable. We should be doing it, and to that end, besides talking about when and where, Jen, we're talking about how, not on the nights where it's saying, okay, and on this night we're going to do it this way, and I get the spontaneity aspect, but as we're talking about communication as it relates to important topics in an intimate relationship like sex, that we talk about those things that we do and don't want. Now, You might run in different circles than I do. But it seems to me, is this true now that I'm chatting with a woman? This doesn't happen very often. I don't get the opportunity to chat with a lot of women. It seems to me that there are a lot of women, they're afraid to say, hey, this is what, now I'm talking about the actual physical act. Now, if I'm going in a different direction than you intend to tell me. But I think women, I think, don't say enough, hey, I like it when you do this, or do this more often, or hey, right there, or don't do that. Do you think that's something that's more of a female thing?
It's definitely a tough place to be as a woman because of the male fragile ego when it comes to the bedroom. We were just talking about this yesterday. I was just talking about this with one of my clients. We were talking about kissing. Like if somebody's not a good kisser, how do you guide? How do you correct that? You know, and how do you tell a man that, you know, you want something different, and we have to, as women, if it's not working for us, we have to be able to broach that conversation if that person's important to us. And that could look a lot of different ways. And so kissing versus sex is different. And yes, you know what, Brandon, and I'll say it as a woman, there are more women that sex is more important to them than it is to men these days. I hear more women 40 and above that have a great sex life is one of their number one priorities in their new relationship, where men, it's not, I don't usually hear that. They'll tell me, well, I want somebody that's real. I want somebody that, you know, is that they'll always say about looking good. Of course, men are very visual, and all of those things are very important, but sex is way up there for women. So guys, you know, that may be something if you've been in a marriage for a long time, or and don't have a lot of practice, or you don't know that you're a stud there in certain areas, you may want to work on that, because it becomes more and more important to women as we get older. It's something we do kind of fall into and get more comfortable talking about, and get more demanding in the area of what we're willing to accept and not accept. Because if you've ever had bad sex, or a non-existent sex life, or a boring sex life, you don't want to go back there, you know?
No, and that's important. If you're not satisfying your partner physically in the bedroom, you're missing a lot from the relationship. And that's where, and I will say this as a guy, and I get it, the whole male fragility and the ego thing, and I'm speaking from where I am now as a 50-year-old man. And I don't know if it's an age thing. I don't know if it's a sense of self-awareness as we get older. I'm comfortable having those conversations, whether it's over text or it's here, or it's in a situation like this, or in an actual relationship. But I think as guys, man, when you care about somebody, you got to make it all about her, and vice versa, Jan, as the woman, you got to make it all about the guy. And we're getting on another level with relationships. But guys, and I will say this, and it's okay. She's not going to laugh at you. She's not going to look down on you. I promise you, man, if you have these discussions with I'm talking to guys now, if you have these discussions with your partner and say, hey, honey, what can I do? And what can I do
better, right? What can I do better?
Exactly. And I will tell you, the first time, and I've been doing it for a long time, the first time I ever asked somebody, hey, do you like that? Or what can I do? What is it that I'm not doing that I can do? And the first couple of times, it might feel weird, but I'll tell you what, the sex will be incredible. You know why? Because when you're pleasing her, she's responding, and there's a natural physiological response.
Thank you.
Pow!
Pay attention, guys. Yeah.
Pay attention. It's okay to talk about that. And here's the other thing. It's not that you're not a stud, or it's not that you don't know what you're doing. every woman is different. This woman might like this. This woman doesn't want as much pressure. This woman likes the speed. This woman likes, it's different. So guys, don't take it personally when a woman says, hey, I would prefer you do this. They're not saying, okay, and I hope you're hearing me, because this is important, Jen, from a guy's point of view. They're not saying that, hey, you suck at this, my goodness. Is what they're saying is they have certain things you like. And I'll say it from a guy's point of view. And let's talk about the first thing that comes to my mind is oral sex. Women, there's
Are you excited
women,
that you get
bunch
to
of different women.
Wait, pause. Are you excited that you get to talk about this off the radio?
Does it look like
Because we can't talk about this on the radio, but yes, we get to talk about this on the podcast. So keep going. Yes.
Okay. I'll use oral. I got receiving oral sex. It's good or bad. It's not good or bad, because, and this applies to women too, Jen. If or if your partner tells you, hey, Jen, this is what I like. For example, this is between me and you, Jen.
And whoever's watching.
Here's one of the things I like, for example, and I've had to tell everybody when I'm in that situation, hey, here's what I like. I like the underside. I like that, but women don't know that. If it's the first couple of times together, she doesn't know.
Yes.
So I have to tell her, or I don't have to, but I'd say, hey, I'm not going to say you're not doing this right. Say, hey, you know what I really like is this.
Hey, at the end of the day, the more you can communicate about what you like and what you don't like and the way that you say it. And of course, timing's everything. But I mean, ultimately, all anybody wants to do is please you. So whether it's your woman pleasing a man or vice versa, everybody wants to please each other. So if there's something that you could do to help them please you, tell them. And it's all in a loving way. And I love the fact that you said, because it's true, open up the dialogue while you're doing it. Do you like this? Is this what you like? Is this what you want? Because it does give the opportunity for feedback so that it's comfortable and it doesn't feel like somebody's complaining afterwards or something. And I think it's too often people wait till, especially women, wait till afterwards or after they get out of the relationship to say, you never pleased me or you weren't good at this. And instead of just being able to coach somebody through it, can be awkward, but it's great that to open up the dialogue for that. So let's talk about, so one of the other things that you had touched on when we did our interview the other day, we were talking about sexting. You had said something about a friend or whatever, somebody sexting. And I thought, okay, well, that is also very relevant. It's also a way if somebody was comfortable with it. Of course, not everybody's going to be comfortable with it. But if somebody's comfortable with it, it's also a way to communicate to your person outside of the bedroom what you like and what you don't like, or to get a gauge for maybe what turns somebody on, your partner on. So again, I think there's people, and I don't want to offend anybody, that think there's going to be people that aren't comfortable with it at all. And I would encourage people that, it's a good, safe place. If you're not comfortable telling your partner what you like, or, you weren't in a relationship where you communicated during sex about what you like, it's not a bad place to be able to experiment so that it's safe and comfortable and it's outside of the scope of, when you're actually in the heat of the moment. But let's talk about your thoughts on it, Branden, because I know you had a story.
So sexting, just so we're clear, Jen, sexting like people in a relationship or people, because I think there's different kinds of sexting. Because it seems to be, I hear more and more people, they do it with people maybe that they don't really know, which, by the way, I think is really hot. I know as guys, we're supposed to be visual, and the guys all about the pictures. Is somebody that I've been sexting with, and it's a fairly new sex or relationship, Jen, and it's from somebody I have never met in person. And I gotta tell you, it's really hot. It is, we talk about the pictures and the guys are the other morning, 2:30 in the morning, I get up and I've got page 32 of the romance novel that she's writing me. And it's like 2:30 in the morning and I'm typing back and I'm typing and I'm like, whoa, no pictures, no visuals, no nothing. I'm reading the text and ooh, I better get to work. I mean, it's that fulfilling. And I think because it's, there's that imagination and I love that you touched on this, Jen, that you can kind of say things and maybe put out things that you've wanted to do or that you would like to do or things that you would like to say. I like to talk, dirty sometimes. Dear God, I hope my mom and dad never see this. But I make it okay first by that sexting relationships and then I said this. And then so if it ever comes to that, and I'm saying some really raunchy stuff in the midst of actual sex, that's like, hey, she knows I don't really think that she's whatever I just said, or that she knows because we've already sexted and we've kind of talked about it, but now I get to say it and I'm in the midst of doing it. And here I'm just this, and I'm saying these things that I would never imagine saying to like a wife or something unless I'd have this conversation. Sexting, I think, would be an amazing way to get into some of this stuff. So yeah, I think there's two different things.
That's interesting.
Not in a relationship. Is it?
Well, it's not somebody you know. So I think from that, from that aspect, there's two things, because Jeff says, I think sexting with somebody you don't know well or know if you can trust wholeheartedly is crazy. So that seems outside of his comfort zone. But on the flip side of all of that, this is somebody completely anonymous that doesn't know you and that you are completely anonymous with. So you almost can say anything and do anything because there isn't that stigma there of somebody knowing who you are, and expectation that you feel like you need to keep up. So I can see where that would be fun and exciting. And Jeff, I think the other part of it too, it's not like they're exchanging pictures. Like he said, it's not a visual thing. It's just conversation. It's just talking back and forth. And it sounds like she's writing you romance novels that are very steamy. And so, I mean, from that, you're able to you'd be able to tell exactly if you did finally meet her and she was, you were actually, turned on by her, you had chemistry, that could actually be very hot to already know who that person is and what they like, because you get it from that. How in the world, though, do you go from not knowing somebody to a full-on sexting conversation? That's what I need to know.
So I've been wondering about that as we're talking about it, and I think about and by the way, this isn't like something that I do all the time. And if somebody says, hey, I would never sext with somebody I don't know, I would say, well, when you get to a place where you feel it's appropriate, if you're chatting with somebody, you're not just going, hey, you want to sext? It's not like that. You're not saying, hey, do you want to sext? It's not like that. I think it has to be very subtle, because I've wondered as I've thought about this thing that I'm doing right now, I'm like, 3:30 in the morning and I'm typing my own romance novel. I'm going, my God, how did we get here?
Yeah.
Where did we make this left-hand turn that both of us apparently never met each other, no face-to-face meeting ever, that we're on the same page and we're just saying stuff? And how did we get there? It's subtle, I think, as I think about my role in developing this little playground thing we're doing. It's a subtle start. And it could be something as innocuous, and you have, my gosh, man, especially today, and guys, when I say remember, respect, got to respect. you got to find a tactful way. It might maybe be something as innocuous as you're joking about a relationship. Yeah, that's what she said. Or, hey, what are you wearing today? Now, if she takes it wrong and say, well, it was just hot. I was just one. I mean, there's ways you can work around that. And that's maybe not the best example, but I think you're getting the spirit of what I'm trying to say. You can find ways to ask something. So, hey, what are you wearing today? And she might, if she responds, why are you asking me what I'm wearing? Oh, I'm sorry. It's hot. Or I know you had a business meeting and I'm wondering, should I match that color? Whatever. Or
Great
she
recovery
might
there.
get she might get what you're throwing down when you ask her.
Yeah.
What is she wearing? Yeah. How do you get there? From a guy's point of view, I don't know. You got to be crafty, not sly. Man, that sounds bad.
I'm entertained by this. I'm just telling you, how do you get there? You have to be crafty. You know what? Maybe it's just like anything else with a relationship. Maybe it's just chemistry. Like maybe just two people hit it off, feel comfortable, and go there. You know, I asked, how do you get there? And I had a female answer very easily.
Okay.
So, you know, I mean, I guess it's, you know, to each his own. Darren says sexting is dating too. If your partner can't communicate over text, they probably can't communicate in the bedroom. So again, yes, great points. I mean, I think you talk about people hiding behind the keyboard.
Yeah.
If you're not comfortable having a conversation, you know, if that's not something you've ever done or had, I think that's a nice bridge, is being able to, you know, be able to communicate that via a text to somebody and start off that way, because it at least gets you comfortable having the conversation, right? And I think that's true, not for as much for you guys as it is for women that have been maybe in some box, you know, or they were a mother and a wife and the soccer mom or whatever. And, you know, now they are divorced and they want to have a healthy sex life and have fun and be sexy and feel sexy. Well, there are things you can do. And I think, I don't think this is out of the question. As far as, you know, is it happening? It's happening. And I think there are some women, and you talk about you're not doing the sexting with pictures, but there are plenty of women that are leading with this up front. And I think there's guys that don't mind it. They'd rather, you know, have some type of intimacy with somebody before the pictures come. But I do think that there's a lot of women that lead with that they just, all they're comfortable with is their body and not utilizing their voice. And all of it's important. You know, it all works together, your body, your voice, the chemistry, the intimacy with one another. So I think the sexting thing can be fun if you have a willing partner and there's a comfortability and some type of comfortability there. As Jeff was talking about, like, whoa, that's out of bounds. Yes, if you're sending pictures to somebody and you don't know them, or send whatever you're sending to them and you don't know them, you better be very, very careful, because we live in a digital world and anything and everything can be shown. You know what I mean? And you get this, Branden, given your job. I mean, people lose their job over this kind of thing. We've seen all the sex scandals, you know, pictures of people's private parts on the news because, you know, they were sexting somebody while they were married and sending pictures. We want to be careful, but in the confines of a safe relationship, sexting can be great and fun and a little naughty and a little exciting. And, you know, that's how you can build things up for later before you go into separate bedrooms, you know? So, yeah.
It's a good way to open the door if you are more comfortable, you know, behind the keyboard, and some of these things come out that you might like to do or that you might like to try, for example. Yeah, the keyboard, and we always joke about the guy living in his mom's basement, you know, typing nasty political stuff at people he'll never meet, but being behind the keyboard, you might be more comfortable to say, yeah, you know, I've always wanted to try this. Send. Let me see how she responds. And then they respond. And then you can have that conversation in person, whereas before maybe that's, gosh, I can't tell her in person that, I want to hang off the ceiling fan or something. I can't. But because you talk about it with the ceiling fan on, by the way, it's a good in maybe behind the keyboard. Even, and I'm thinking, Jen, even for people that are already in a relationship, maybe somebody who's been married for a while, how cool would that be? And I don't know, because I've never been married very long. I've been married twice for a total of 3 years. But I'm wondering, somebody who's been a long-term relationship, been married for a while, and maybe you're kind of like, yeah, okay, I know what's coming next. I know how this works. It gets mechanical. But how would your spouse or significant, how surprising would that be today if out of the blue, if it's something you've never done, if you sent a text or a Facebook message that's just spicy enough that you start going, can you imagine the response of a spouse who, whoa, we've been married for 18 years. He's never sent me a text like this. I'm trying to think how I would respond. My wife.
A woman would say, well, he's cheating on me. I'm just saying, like anything unexpected like that comes out and a man's behavior changes, a woman's going to think he's cheating. But I totally agree with you, though, that if it's not spicy and you want to spice it up, there are ways to do it. And sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone and try different things like that. I could not agree with you more. Jim says, watch out for catfishing too, which is true, which, oh my gosh, I have to tell you the story. One of my friends was telling me about, and it's a side note, he was telling me about his first online date. And I told him I might tell this story today because it's so funny. His first online date, he just got online dating years ago, met a girl, decide they're going to meet for coffee. And everything's great. They sent pictures to each other so they knew what each other looked like. They go to Starbucks. He's sitting there. He orders his coffee. He sits down. He leaves money up at the register for the person coming in, the girl coming in, after him, that is going to get coffee. So it's all perfectly set up. So it's paid for. And the people at the desk, behind the register know. And all of a sudden they look outside and they see this she-man, like it was a man. Coming in to start, and it was the person. And this is so funny, Branden, you're going to just die. So what happened was they all saw at the same time, and they're all looking out the window. And this guy jumps up. He's sitting down with his laptop or whatever at the table. He jumps up, gets behind the counter with the people, and he goes, you guys need to fill up this milk. You know what? All these containers are empty. I need all of this filled up. I'll be back in an hour. And he takes off.
It's a smart dude.
I mean, I know that was quick on your feet and literally took off. And long story short, he ended up getting an apology from the girl, but that is one of the funniest stories ever. But it happens. You have to be careful. It happens with online dating, catfishing. I assume it could happen with sexting too. Jerry Ann says it's so important to touch on those topics before you go there. Yuck on becoming mechanical. She also said men are so visual, and that may be why women lead off with pictures, unfortunately. Women are visual too. It's not just men. Some women are as well. So, that's something else you would need to feel out with somebody. Don't just assume that men are the only visual people. Some women are very visual and like pictures too.
Really?
So yeah. Oh yeah. Oh. And I didn't mean to call you out, Jerry M, but this is what I do for a living. And there are a lot of women that enjoy that. So you really have to feel out your man or woman and not assume that it's just the men are visual. And men also and we are post-COVID too. And I shouldn't say post, we're just in it, whatever. There is no new normal. There's no normal at all. But I think having, been post-lockdown, I should say, a lot of people got into video. A lot of people took more time getting to know somebody before they went and met them to make sure that they were safe and healthy and all those things, and taking precautions, and had been taking precautions during. And I think that that's one of the things that has been coming out of all this, is are people taking a little bit more time digitally to get to know each other before they venture out into a date. And so I think it gives there's a lot of opportunity for ways to get to know each other over video, or, through texting, sex, whatever. I'm not saying sex somebody before you meet them. Don't be Branden. I'm just kidding. I'm joking because I'm totally joking, because I am sure that Branden, you could end up marrying this girl. You never know. You never know how a romance is going to start. And clearly there's a comfortability between the two of you already. And that's kind of a cool thing. If it never turns into anything, at least you got to experience this really cool, aspect that you never had before.
And that's exactly where I am. I'm like, even if we never actually meet in person and never date, this has been fun to an extent. It's been very gratifying. And it's almost, it's kind of like, at the end of the day, it's like, oh, I kind of have this thing to look forward to. And it's been fun, and I think some of these, sometimes, and I'm speaking for myself, I always say, man, relax, be careful, but relax with these things, because don't take yourself so seriously. Chill out, and I think you relax and you let some of those defenses down. Because here's the other thing, and I think the value in this, Jen, is when we, for example, I'll go back to the example of sexting, for example. You might learn something about, as you're typing, you go, yeah, and then we did this, and then you're going, man, I've got a lot of things that I'm thinking I might like to try, or a lot of things that, in the past, they haven't been willing to do this, and I'm putting it out there. And since it's just sexting, we're not actually in the bedroom together. She can, yell out her safe word, pineapple, whatever your safe word is, via text, but you might learn something about yourself. You might go, wow, that's something I would really like to try. And then if you're getting into a new realm of places, positions, toys, whatever, you might open up this whole new world of, wow, there's a whole wide world of pleasure out there that I had not even considered.
That is true.
Not benefit just your significant other, but you too.
Yeah, no, that is true. Especially, again, people that have been in long-term relationships or marriages that may have been sexless, or, maybe, they had it and then it went away, and a lot of things have changed. And there's a lot, we just live in a much more open society today with a lot more things on the table. And it is refreshing, I think, to be able to get out of your box. And Jerry Ann says that, she's one of those girls, she's a visual, but, there are so many visual men that, but times are changing, she says, and ever evolving, and they are. And I think we all need to be open to that. I think that like you said, sometimes in some of these experiences, you find an aspect of yourself that you didn't know existed and that you like. And, I will say this, Branden, because of years of, as long as you've been in the media, there is this box, and it's even the media box is opening up, where media people before couldn't talk about what their political views were and, personal things. Everything was so buttoned up, and it's not that way so much anymore. Everything's opening up a little bit, even in the media, but when you grow up in that media box where you have to say the right things, you can't say this, you can't, it's that box, you and I know. You live in that box. So it's fun to get out of the box of it, of expectations that you have to put on yourself, and And I think we all have them, whether you're in the media or not. We all have those things like, I don't do this and I do this. I know growing up a Catholic, I grew up Catholic. I know growing up a Catholic, I had to recover from that just to be able to give myself permission to be a woman and to be a sensual, sexual female, outside of, the Catholic guilt, right? But I know some of you get and understand what I'm talking about. But I think everybody's got a box, and we need to. And I think the lesson here in all of this is, it's been an interesting conversation. Get out of your box. Try new things. It's okay. It's okay if it's uncomfortable at first. Try it. Because you never know. Branden would never have realized that this sexting thing could be so fun and interesting and exhilarating and exciting if he wouldn't have tried it and gotten out and then dabbled and, because you start off slow and you move in and it's exciting. And so I think being open like that as we get older is really important.
Yeah, communication. And the other thing I will say, and I think this is kind of key for what we're talking about with this, like the sexting stuff, there has never been, at least on my side of it, there's never been a goal that, hey, then we're going to meet and we're going to actually do this stuff. Sometimes, yeah, that's what I'm hoping happens, if I'm being honest. But a lot of times it's never led into relationships. It's never led into me sometimes actually, I'm saying it's not always led into relationships. It's not always led into me meeting that person. It was what it was at that point in time. And it was just kind of a nice release. But yes, communication on all things. And here's why I appreciate what you do when sometimes we talk about some of these topics. Now, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I have seen a lot of psychiatrists over the years. So everything we do for the most part is shaped by how we grew up. What you learned in the home. I'm not saying we learned sex in the home, but our views on relationships, how we behave to each other, and, do we not show emotion? Do we show emotion? That's what we learn. That's our learning manual. And then we go into life, and oftentimes we take that manual with us and we do the same thing. We don't show affection because mom and dad never did. And I'm guessing, maybe the sex was mechanical and you did it on Saturday nights, and maybe on the birthday you did something special. But yes, if you get, bust out of that mold, step over the edge of that cliff, because you're going to pull the cord on the parachute. More often than not, that parachute's going to work, and you're going to find, I think, a whole new world of all types of things, with whether we're talking about intimacy or anything else. Communicate, take a chance, step out of your comfort zone. And I know it's easy for people, well, step out of your comfort zone. I'm talking from experience here as somebody who can be, pretty tight about some things. I have found, especially in the past couple of years of my life, stepping out of my comfort zone and take a chance. And Jen, I'll be danged what those people have been telling me over the years. Take a chance. It'll be okay. The world's not going to come to an end. You might not always get the answer you want, but take a chance. You'll discover some new stuff. They've been telling me this for years, Jennifer. And unfortunately, it was like 45 until I decided, you know what? I'm going to take a chance.
I love it. And you know what? I think there's a lot of people listening to that probably need to hear that. It's never too late to change. And as Jim said, discovery is a form of personal growth. Perfect segue right into what you're talking about. We should always be growing. And for those people that have not had happy relationships or may be divorced and want something more, that may mean you being something more or doing something more, or looking in places you may not have looked, and trying new things. And that's a really hard step for some people, is change, whether it's sleeping on a different side of the bed or, taking a chance on sexting. I know they're opposite, but they all get us out of our comfort zone, and getting out of our comfort zone is a great thing, because you never know what you might discover that would be good for you, or something that you enjoy or like, or a part of you or an aspect of you that you didn't know existed, which is awesome. I think that's the best part, Branden, about getting older, is that we get to constantly learn new things. And I have said this, and the podcast has helped me a lot. I love having a voice now, like I didn't when I was younger. And I have learned to have a voice as a woman as I've gotten older. And I know my ex used to say that I needed a filter. I probably do sometimes, but I like not having a filter because I had a filter for so long. So I think there's so many beautiful things about, as we age and we understand, like I'm going to communicate. I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to speak my heart. And if somebody doesn't like it, I don't give a damn. I'm being honest and I'm being true to who I am. And that matters, and that matters for all of us. And so I love that you're doing that at this point in your life. I love that the last 2 years have been transformational. I know you've had life-changing things that have happened for you, and I'm in your corner. So you know what? I know we're running out of time. I want to thank you for coming. It is, sometimes you think, okay, we have to have a million, points to talk about, as we fill up our time, and you and I could sit and do this for hours because there's so many ways and conversations to go. So you did not disappoint at all. You're amazing. Thank you for speaking from your heart. This is what you do daily. I was on your show 2 weeks ago and I got a bunch of people hitting up my website afterwards, which never happens, out of state, like in Missouri. All these people coming from your state. We have some good conversations. So, if you guys ever want to hear a good conversation in the morning and an honest conversation and a fun one, Hot Talk up in Missouri. I know you can get online. I listen to you guys sometimes. Your Facebook feed comes up, and sometimes I listen to you guys live on Facebook. So you guys can like his page and listen to that too. If that's what you like, talk radio. It's a really fun show.
It is, some of the political stuff, but we have fun with, and there's a lot of things happening in the world right now, but we have fun with it. And if you get onto, it's Wake Up Columbia on Facebook. We do the video. We do live video every day. It's a 3.5 hour show. So from 6 a to 9 a Central Time, there's video on there. And I will say this on a personal note, I got to go. But I want to say for fans of Jen, people that are watching right now, people that will come back and watch this later, when Jen was talking about finding your voice, and sometimes we grow into it, sometimes we take that chance and we step into it. But when you find that voice, and I've seen this in other women throughout the years, they find that, whether they've just grown into it or they've taken that chance, they grow, and you can see that confidence. There's a gal that I know in Florida, and she's married, not, okay marriage. And I didn't see her after 2 years. And this young lady, she's 32, started to make some changes in her life. My goodness, Jen, this woman beams with confidence. And she was kind of the frumpy kind of, slumped over and no confidence. So I'm going to say this to fans of Jen, even though we've never met, in my dealings with her over the years and watching some of her stuff and our interactions on my show. In the 12 years that I've known Jen, like, I can see today, you talk about finding your voice, and I'm a woman, and I've seen you change in the 12 years that I have known you. And so Jen is a testament to what we've been talking about.
Love it. Thank you for that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I appreciate you being on the show. I know you're a busy man. You got lots to do, some breaking stories over politically right now, lots of stuff going on. So thank you for what you do. And I think the link is on here on our page, on our stream. So thanks for joining us, everybody. And thank you, Branden. Love you. Love your show. We'll talk again soon. And thank you for your honesty and the conversation today. You're a gem. People loved you here. So God bless you. You guys have a great weekend. This is Jennifer. Thanks for listening today, and please subscribe to the podcast. Every single week we'll have new information, and if you'd like to find out more information or if you have any questions, please go to my website at lovejen.com, or you can find me on Facebook at my personal page, Jennifer Stiers.